stuff. But the thing Britt chose to speak on today was more about genealogy, how important that is. So you're going through that whole chapter going, man, so-and-so begat so-and-so, and on it goes. And it says, our prophet Russell M. Nelson once said, when our hearts turn to our ancestors, something changes inside us. We feel part of something greater than ourselves. Which is always kind of interesting to think. There's several excellent genealogy quotes out there that talk about our ancestors being on the other side and wanting to help us and us needing to help them. And then you go to the scripture talking about us being saviors upon Mount Zion, and that's referring directly to temple work. As we do our temple work for our ancestors, we're helping to be saviors unto them by helping them get their work done. So Brittany goes on here and talks about it. Says, we all grew up seeing family pictures on the walls, some of ourselves, some of our parents, our brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles. I'm sure most of us have seen a picture of family members that we don't know. Most of us had a grandma with a wall of photos, the black and white ones, that could tell 1,000 tales, but that most of the family didn't even know the names of. Which, I recall that growing up. My mom had tons of pictures on the wall, and they're still there for the most part. I remember almost all of them. One is of her uncle. He's got a little I can't remember the type of airplane it was, but it was a biplane, and he had been a tail gunner in B-17 in World War II, and we still have some cool stuff about that. All of his flight logs and stuff. He said in those flight logs, I saw so-and-so, they were flying on the Purple Heart Corner today, and that's the outer edge of the formation of the B-17's Purple Heart Corner. That's one of the first guys to get shot down, and seeing people get blown up 1,000 yards away and their whole plane go down. And so I remember seeing pictures of him with that airplane up on the wall. And then my grandfather, his twin brother, he served in the Philippines. And so I used to see a picture of him, not in the Philippines, but standing there. And then I remember hearing stories, from my dad, that when my dad had come over, then Grandpa would salute him, because my dad was in the military, and he'd been around the block, Army Ranger, and then he had a boat in Korea that they'd send missions out into North Korea. This is on Zoom, I better be quiet. Anyway, so they'd send some missions up into different places, and interesting stories. But that grandfather of mine, he served as a Seavey in the Navy. And it's interesting to know those histories of your family. So Brittany said, these are some of mine. She has several pictures here that I'll probably pull out here in a little bit. It says, as a child, I would recognize these pictures. I knew they were family, but my knowledge didn't go beyond that. It wasn't until I was much older that I realized the importance of finding out who these people were. What was their story? How did they live? What kind of trials did they go through? How do we learn these things today? We are blessed with the tools that make this knowledge so much easier to access. We have computers and phones so that all of us have easy access to information literally at our fingertips. And if anybody has questions about genealogy, there's a few people in our ward that really know this stuff that can help you out. It says, are we willing to do the small amount of work to find it? We have these really neat apps on Ancestry and Family Tree that are not only saves the information that we put in, but it also connects us to information that others have put in by finding family lines that run together. And shoot, that Ancestry thing, it's pretty cool. In the Family Tree app, it sends me little reminders and things like that, of family members' gravestones or military records and things like that. Pretty neat. It says we can find names, ages, birth dates, death dates, places of birth, and places of death. Family members, children's names, etc. And then this is where Brittany says, what does this sound like? So you have your genealogy there. And then she says, it sounds like Moses, and then it says, this week we read in Moses chapter 5, which gives us the lineage of Adam and Eve down through Enoch, Methuselah, and Noah, plus many more. And I was thinking about that poor old Methuselah. Methuselah got left behind when the city of Enoch was taken up. That poor guy. Anyway, I felt a little bad for him, where I have over the years. It says genealogy is mostly finding dates, birth dates, locations, family members, and marriage information. In cases of church genealogy, you will also see whether or not someone's work has been done, which is the whole importance of why we're doing that genealogy. Is to get those ordinances done in the temple and create a welding link from our time all the way back to Adam. It says in rare, exciting cases, you are blessed to find some pictures and stories of your ancestors. The scriptures are those exciting occasions. We may not get pictures, but we definitely get all the important stories. We know how important it is for us to have the scriptures and know the sacrifices and stories of our prophets of old. How important it is to know where and who we come from. When I think of the importance of genealogy, I think of Lehi sending his sons back to Jerusalem to get his family's genealogy from Laban on the brass plates. They had a hard time and passed through many trials. There's some fascinating stuff there. That as they went, obviously it tells the story of Nephi. I went not knowing beforehand the things that I should do. And so, anyway, that's a real fascinating thing. Not knowing beforehand the things I should do. And a little lesson there for us is that we proceed forward sometimes not knowing the things that we should do. Then it says they had a hard time and passed through many trials because Lehi knew that the information in it was so important. So it contained their genealogy and it contained the books of Moses and those things like that, the important stuff. It says once the brass plates were in hand, and I always liked the part where Nephi was wearing Laban's clothes and had Zoram. I got to see my brothers outside the city wall. It's one of my favorite parts. And then the brothers see Nephi in Laban's clothes and think that he's been killed, and they start to run away. And so he yells at them, "Hey!" And then Zoram realizes that Nephi is not who he thinks he is. So Nephi has to seize upon him, which is kind of funny. Anyway, because of the importance of genealogy and because of the obedience of the prophets of old, we were able to trace ancestry back to the tribes of Israel, and from there back to Adam. Now, if you think of the plates they had, then you look later. Nephi, he ended up making a set of plates and recording the things that he wanted to record on there, and then later was commanded to make a second set. And so that kind of goes for us. What are we recording in our journals that may be important to our families later? That's something that we should be doing. So Nephi, he recorded things that were of spiritual importance on one set of plates, and the other set of plates had more of a secular history. Because of the importance of genealogy and because of the obedience of the prophets of old, we were able to trace ancestry back to the tribes of Israel and from there back to Adam. Today's more current ancestry, however, isn't written on great books of brass or gold. Some are written in journals. Most, however, are stories that were told to the next generation until someone wrote it down. The stories that I have are mostly the latter. So Brittany has some interesting family. She's got some